God.
I'm holding the tripod up with my leg.
Guys, I'm holding this tripod with my leg because it's not stable. And there's a person there.
Someone's listening to us be completely.
No, guys, you see,
You know what?
so
It's not brainless. It's entrepreneurial.
it's
That's the word.
entrepreneurial, guys. We
Yeah.
went to a business school, right? So we know what we're doing. It's called lean startup. It's called being agile. It's a minimum valuable project.
Honestly, the only takeaway from business school is start something.
You know what?
Deal with it as it comes.
Exactly, like don't wait for something to be perfect. You see, like my mic, like I literally like didn't bring the parts of the mic.
We've been crying about this mic for 45 minutes now.
Yeah, but that's fine. That's fine. You know what? Like, it's okay. We can make it work. Wait, where's my I need to make my lips shiny and juicy. Wait.
Priorities.
Exactly, because like, you know, I want to male audience stay for the looks, right? Even if they don't want to, if they don't want to listen what I'm talking about, at least they want to watch. I'm gonna use all of my assets. Okay, guys, you see, that's what I'm talking about. You have to leverage
Was
all
it
of your opportunities.
was it Coco
advantages.
Chanel who said that? Someone told me this recently. A guy that I went on a date with told me this recently.
What did he say?
He said he was watching something related to Coco Chanel, I think. And
I love it for him.
it's, truth be told, honestly, very smart guy.
Lovely.
But yeah, this is something he said that Coco Chanel said that women who don't use their bodies,
Stupid.
to make money,
Mm-hmm.
they're doing the wrong thing. And he said it in a much more harsh way. I'm just dulling it down.
But what do you think about that?
I don't think it's fair. Because number one, or at least in the way that he meant it, I don't think it was fair because he was attributing it to sex. Yeah. And
Oh, you mean she's not using bodies, meaning like not sleeping with people for.
yeah, so at least using it to your advantage and being more flirtatious and getting what you want.
But like being flirtatious and actually
Yes,
like
there's
having
a
like sexual relationship is
big
different
difference,
things.
Big difference.
Big difference, yes.
Big difference. And either ways, I don't think it's fair because,
Not fair to whom?
well, to anyone. Unless, like, you are open to doing that and putting yourself out in that way, which is completely fine. I don't think it's calling women who are not up for that stupid is not
Ah,
fair, right?
but are you talking about like okay, theoretical situation, right? Are you talking about the woman who doesn't have the assets and that's why she doesn't use the assets, or are you talking about a woman who like conventionally attractive in the society but still chooses to like because even like, okay, even if the girl is attractive, right, like she's just pretty, she's not doing anything with that, like she's not actively like flirting, like she's not doing it consciously, but just by being like nice and being like sociable and being like looking the way she is, people can say that she's using the looks, right?
Yeah, and that's
So-
a thing that's a concept that exists, and it's called pretty privilege. In the way that if you are more physically attractive and conventionally attractive, you automatically do get concessions in society simply because of that, of something that you were born with, right?
Okay, I saw so many videos about pretty privilege. So I think people don't really understand, like, okay, I think the way people understand it is like Instagram privilege, you know, like you see the photo and you think the person is pretty, but it's not really the way it's working in real life. In real life, you like the way you see a person, it's a combination of the looks and also like social skills and like being smiley or having like a certain energy, you know? So like if you know like a person is attractive but they're dull, or like the way they speak is not just working for you. Like I saw for example, I could see a guy and say, "Oh, like he's cute, he's hot, whatever," right? And then I start talking to them, and then like I don't like their voice, or like I don't like their tone, or I don't like the way they, or like they are rude, like not to me, but like the way they talk about the world and like stuff. It's rude and like and unkind, right? And then like I just shut myself down. I don't want to talk to them anymore. So like this pretty privilege didn't work for them, right? And I think it's the same with women, right? Like you start talking to them, and I think like it's actually different. Like I would say it's like energy thing. Like you start talking to people, and then because they're like nice and like have this like energy about them, then you can say, okay, I want to work with them.
I agree to disagree because um, even so, if you're pretty, you and your imagine there's two people, right? You both have the same qualifications, the same skills. The only thing that's different about you at first sight is how you look.
Yeah.
The person who's prettier is more likely to just be approached, and I've seen this happen in real life. And I've actually heard it being said in real life. Like guys that I used to know from high school say this about some of my friends, and it's not that the girl's energy was any better than the other person's energy. It's just that it made it easier for them to be approached. It made it easier for for guys to like take a shot at them, give them that one step that the other person doesn't have.
Wait, are you talking about like romantic shot?
Romantic shot and also professional shot. I've seen it both ways, in different contexts, in different.
Okay, I
situations.
think if we talk about like we shouldn't talk about romantic stuff
No,
because
absolutely, we
it's
should not. Yeah.
is I think like for romance, attraction physically is so important.
Yeah.
Like if the person doesn't like you,
Yeah.
that's fine. Like
But it's also the way that, so if you find the other person relatively good looking, more attractive, you're more open to listening to them and give them more of a chance to prove themselves rather than someone who's not. Because you have all these preconceived notions. That's not no one's fault, right? It's just psychology to some extent. And it's also the environment that you grew up with, etc., etc. But also, I find that when you're not conventionally attractive, unless you've like made your stand in that social setting and really proved yourself to be someone worth listening to, men tend to shut you down after
what about women?
women do it too sometimes.
So is it like a privilege if everyone behaves the same way? Like in what way? Like what do you define to be a privilege then?
A privilege is anything that gets you there faster, right? That gets you that first step faster.
Yeah, okay. So let's say what you say is true, right? Like, okay, even if you're like pretty or I actually think like it's also differs for different people, right? Like different people find different people attractive.
Yeah.
Even between two attractive people, you can think like subjectively that someone is more attractive, and you can prove like that's okay, right?
Yeah.
But if we say that whatever like give you a faster start in life and like pretty privilege exists as well as like other privileges, right? So like is it a bad thing to try to move faster in life? Like people use, because there is also such thing, like I think like no one talks about smart privilege, like being smart, being born with certain like cognitive skills, being able to do like some subjects are just easier for you. That's also a privilege, right? Why we don't talk about that? Okay, it's easier for them to take a test because they're smarter, and like other people have to work harder. Like no one complains about that. It seems to be like fair. Like why people? I think it's actually people who talk about pretty privilege. They're actually more concerned about looks than people who like actually use the pretty privilege. You know what I mean?
I understand what you mean. I also think that being smarter is a more
But why it's easier for people to accept that they are smarter than it's fair, We can say, well, it's not fair, right?
But that's the thing. The problem with pretty privilege is the fact that you can be smarter. You might have the privilege of being smarter than other people, but it gets overshadowed by the fact that you're not as pretty, or you don't get the attention that you deserve. It is. It is definitely. I think like. Someone who's smart will get there no matter what, right? They're willing to find the opportunities, see what needs to be seen, do what needs to be done, and get there. That's just what is allowed to you from what you're blessed with intellectually. But at the same time, if someone was pretty and they were given that opportunity that you should have gotten,
But why you should have gotten? Why do you feel that you're entitled to any opportunity? We live in a free world, right? I want to give
but
opportunity
that's the thing,
to
you're
you.
not entitled to it. But it's just do
But
you
I
not find
think-
it unfair?
Think that there are other opportunities. Like what? Okay, I'm not saying that you might not get some opportunities because of not being pretty enough for that particular person or for this particular community. I'm not saying you also can, like, you can be the most pretty person in the world, but the person with connections will get this like opportunity. Nepotism,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So nepotism covers overshadows. Okay, wait. Nepotism overshadows pretty privilege, right? Because like you will get your person, not a pretty person.
Exactly.
Then pretty privilege overshadows smart privilege. Then smart privilege overshadows what privilege?
And if you want to, you can always seek the opportunities in no matter what the level of privilege is. But the fact remains that someone is getting undue advantage that you like. Imagine like you really wanted this one job or this one thing, right? Other options exist, but this is what you want. But that's what you're not getting. That's the difference there, right?
Well, can you give me an example?
You can do other things in life. I'm not saying that the other options.
But
don't
what
exist.
you can tell me in like this day and age what you cannot do or like cannot find like another way, like
That's the thing, you
if
can.
if the mountain
Absolutely you
doesn't
can.
goes to Muhammad goes to mountain,
No,
like
absolutely.
yes.
Exactly, that exists. But the
Yeah.
fact that for someone else on the same level as you are,
Yeah.
intellectually, the mountain did go to them. That's like okay. It's disheartening more than
No,
the
but
fact that opportunities don't exist. It's disheartening.
I just think that it's disheartening, but it is as disheartening as like if person has okay, let's say we apply for university, right? Like university gives you a lot of opportunities in life, right? So you have to take a test, you have to like write this essay, stuff like that, right? But like because other person is just smarter, it's just like easier for them to pick things up. Like they will like you will have to spend twice as time as they are, right? And it's more likely that they will get in, right? And if they have to choose between two people, let's say you're from the same country, the same school, right? If they have to choose, they're gonna say like choose other person just because they're more talented. It's just a little bit better, right? Like, is it fair or not fair? Like, what is more important, the outcome or the effort?
I think one is more superficial than the other.
Why?
Pretty privilege can be more superficial.
But
superficial
why?
than someone that's intellectually gifted and also
But okay, what if,
willing to put in the hard work.
but like, don't you think that pretty people don't put hard work? Do you think it's easy to be pretty?
No, but so I'm not saying that pretty people who don't work, who
Yeah.
work hard shouldn't get opportunities.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Yeah.
If you work for it, you should absolutely get it. Right? It's the concept of equity amongst people. It's just the fact that okay, so now you worked hard. You will
Okay, let's say this person not even work hard. Okay, sometimes, okay, when you study in the university, and also guys, like, it's just a conversation, right? Don't make it personal, right? We're just having intellectual debate, and we like naturally took some stances because we want to like make this conversation
Yeah.
going. It's not representative
a
of
lot
our
of
like
our
perce-
values do align, but we're just making
we are friends
content.
actually, yes. Guys, we are friends, we're good friends, we have a lot of good values, so anyway, let's say in the university, right, like you take an exam. Some people have to work like the whole semester, like the whole term, study hard. Some people can prepare in a day,
Yeah.
and then they get a better mark.
Yeah.
Still,
But that's the thing, no one's seeing you to give those marks. They're only based on the pure
But
intellectual
it's-
answers that you put down on paper. It has nothing to do with something as superficial as
Okay, why? Okay,
knowing your
yeah.
background or seeing your face. Which is why one of the most simplest. So this has nothing to do with this conversation. This is taking another tangent. one of the most simplest ways
Yeah.
to make recruitment fair
Yeah,
is to remove photographs from
Yeah.
CVs
yeah.
so that you don't see the gender,
Uh-huh.
you don't see how the person is dressed. You don't see their body language, nothing. You're judging the person based on purely their experiences in life, right?
But that's the difference, right? Like gender,
Like I said,
nationality,
nothing. But I'm just saying
ethnicity.
that's one way to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah,
equitable.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So the same way when you're
Yeah.
grading a paper,
Yeah.
you are looking at the answers.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're smart, if you're hardworking, right?
Okay.
Because you don't know the person behind the paper
Yeah.
at all. And you're forced to, and that's a situation where you can actually physically challenge it if you've written the right answer and someone's marked it wrong. Like, what the hell is that? That's just not possible, especially if the other person's given the same answer. But in more social context, it's harder to do that and also prove that the other person has been given that opportunity because X, Y, Z reasons. Especially if you can pull out receipts and say, I have exactly the same thing.
Okay. What do you think about emotional intellect versus EQ versus
this
IQ?
is a very wide conversation. We've gone on complete.
No. I actually it is connected in my head.
Okay.
Like, what do you think about like EQ comparing to IQ? What is more important?
I don't think you can say either is. It depends on the in which context is it more, because both are applied at different places.
So people say that, especially I think in recent decades, right, that emotional intellect is more important to help you to succeed in life. That you have to be able to make those connections. That you have to be able to be likable, to be compassionate, kind, stuff like that, and for example, in all top universities, they actually put so much effort to teach you networking, soft skills, stuff like that,
Yeah.
teamwork. So, do you think it's more in people actually started to discredit the value of IQ, right? They say, well, who cares that you're smart? If you don't have those social skills, and that's happening in the workplace as well. People think that it's more important to go for coffee with colleagues and your bosses rather than actually do a good job, and they think that there are other people who would do the work and I'm gonna be the one socializing, and they think if I need to be more visible, the visibility is more important than the hard work. Your work shouldn't be bad, right? But it doesn't have to be exceptional. It should be good enough, and you also have to be visible, and they say that you have to be strategic about those things. So what do you think? Is it fair?
I think
And it's literally something that all the top universities teach you.
so. Socializing is important, 100%. Networking is important. There's no replacement for that kind of informal relationship that you have with someone. But also, I think I know this from just workplaces that I've been in previously. If you are someone who doesn't put in the work and you are very simply going out for coffee, tea with the bosses, then your colleagues automatically, as a natural response, begin to respect you less. And you might be getting ahead in life, from a personal standpoint.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, your social standing, everyone's going to be polite to you at your face. But at the end of the day, when you're not listening, people are making those judgment calls. They are talking to each other about it. And maybe you shouldn't care about it, right? Maybe the way forward is just power through. Do what needs to be done to get where you need to get.
Okay, you say that. Okay, so EQ, let's say, theoretically, according to your argument, it will actually help you to go ahead in life.
I think the key word, and you said this, you said strategically. The word strategically is very important. Because you need to be able to balance it. You need to be able to think, when can I apply networking to my advantage? And not just for your own purpose, but also could be for the good of the group.
But why it has to be okay, why it has to differ? Why people differ for your own good and the good of the group? I think that it's not different.
It doesn't need to differ, right? It just depends on what your priorities are. But again, it's a strategic decision, right? In many places, you need the support of not just your bosses, but also your colleagues to move forward in life. You never know who's going to reach where at some point.
But it's also strategic. Like it's also like
It is strategic.
okay, if you being nice, okay, like so what's the difference, right? Like we say, okay, so it's like such a mixed point, right? Let's say, okay, pretty privilege. It helps you to get ahead in life, but for some reason it's unfair. Unfair according to whom, right? When we talk about EQ, right, is we can call it like charismatic privilege, privilege of being like of having social skills. And I know for a fact that some people, like especially for example, if you are not from this Western country, right, from Western community, you don't like in some countries you don't talk to each other the way people talk to each other here, right? Like small talks, I don't know, like constant encouragement, right? Like in some countries people don't communicate this way, and it's really hard for them to adjust, like communication wise here, right? So is it unfair that some people have this advantage, you know, just being naturally, like just being born in this environment, right? And like just because they're gonna be more likable, they're gonna get ahead, right? And like is it bad that for some people are gonna be jealous? But also if you don't want to make, and it is jealousy, right? Like let's call it the way it is, right? So if you are not spending your time like, but also like some people, like strategically they talk to other people and try to make them feel good, not because they like those people, you know, not because they're so sincere, but also they're being strategic, like you said that, right? Like you're being strategic, you are thinking that like, oh, maybe one of those people will go ahead, so I have to be nice to them, right? Is it a fair thing? Is it a nice thing? Like isn't it like as, let's say, vile and cunning as like using your pretty privilege, using your like EQ, using your IQ, whatever?
So I think the key difference there again goes to that point of being superficial, is that social interaction is something that you can control, but pretty privilege is not, because
it is like girls and guys, they literally, like you see this on TikTok, right? How much effort they put in it, like the before, after, the makeup, the hair, whatever. Like you can make it, can become pretty if it's really that important for you, or if you have like a certain understanding of what pretty is. Because like I might think that some, like a person is pretty, they're pretty for me, but other people might not think that they're pretty for them, right? So in the end of the day, like if I make a choice, we can say that they use a pretty privilege. If other person made the choice, we can say they also use pretty privilege, but like against them, right? But so in the end of the day, you can never know like who you, like this is like very subjective, right? So in the end of the day, it's up to you. In the end of the day, it's in your head, right? What do you think pretty is? And then do you consider yourself pretty, you know? Is that the other thing, right? I think it's about like people who, like if you think that you are pretty, you might attribute, like you can attribute it to your prettiness, right? But like if you don't think that you're pretty, you can say it was all hard work, but other people can say, well, no, actually I can see that you're like conventional attractive woman. And that's what happens a lot of times, especially when you talk to
for
guys.
sure, no, absolutely, for sure. But again, I think that, so with pretty privilege, you can put in the effort, you can look nice. It's not necessarily the other person accepts that you are pretty, because again, you said it's subjective, depends on the, and your view of being beautiful is different from their view of beautiful, right? But then when it comes to social interaction, there's just so much more nuance, because like remember how we studied in business school, they were like to achieve likability, reciprocity is one of the thing, like you give something, you will get something.
But that's social skill, that's EQ.
Exactly. So those kind of things, there's something at stake there as compared to physical appearance. It's a lot more, it's something where you have more control over what the other person.
Well, you have more control over it if you're smart and if you can grasp those concepts, right? So you're using your smart privilege. Yeah.
But pretty privilege is not necessarily strategic in that.
Why not? Why not? Okay, a lot of cultures, when like, and we say girls because it's usually attributed to girls, but like for guys, same way. When you grow up, your parents, your mothers, they teach you how to take care of yourself. They teach you how to groom yourself. They teach you how to like make sure your hair look good, make sure your nails look good, make sure that you take care of your skin, you know. In some cultures, you learn it from the very young age. And that's why like when you grow up, you have like good skin, good looks, you know how to dress up so that it makes you like in the best possible light, right? And then this, we can say the same thing. So like, are they privileged, or was it a strategic decision? The same way that like some people have access to education, right? And by the time that you have to learn these concepts about social interactions and persuasion, like you have this background, right? You have this foundation on what you can build that, and like you actually grasp and then utilize those concepts, right? Isn't it a privilege?
Yeah,
And like
absolutely.
why is it a more fair privilege rather than like being pretty?
Fair enough. I mean, it depends on like. So you're born with certain assets. You
Yeah.
could use those assets.
Exactly.
But
Why is
once
it
again-
unfair to be born the way you are
no,
born?
it's not unfair.
Yeah.
The question is when you are given opportunities without putting in the effort. That is the thing. But again, going back to the
Yeah.
point where you made earlier about
Mhm.
women being saying, "Oh, she got there because she's pretty."
Yeah.
That's
It
nonsense.
is misogynistic, yes.
Nonsense.
Exactly. So who is the judge in the end, right? Like who is judging?
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes it's women judging other women. It's more than like men judging. Like, do you see the men say, oh, like misogynistic men, right? Or like women with internal misogyny, right? So they're like, why would women judge other women for getting ahead in life, and they say like, oh, you have a pretty privilege? I feel like when men say that, it's so obvious that they're like petty and like insecure. Honestly, right? Like it's just misogyny. They say, oh, it's because you flirt with the boss, right? Or because you wear a short skirt, right? And like, who the hell are you, right? Like just because you were not, I don't know, competitive enough, you didn't get this opportunity.
Yeah.
So we know that man is in the wrong. But when women judge other women, why we think it's okay? Aren't they
We
insecure?
don't think it's okay. Do we
Okay.
think it's okay?
well, that's the whole conversation, right? We say that pretty privilege exists, and like people don't, like when people use it or like I don't know have it, like it's unfair. Like, but that's coming from other women. No,
I don't think it's gonna.
from who? Then it's coming from God.
I don't know from where it's coming.
So
I don't think
if
it's
men
really
say
coming
that,
from
like, it's-
other women.
But from whom? Because we say if it's coming from men, it's obviously like pettiness and insecurity, right?
We have to dig to the depths to find the answer to that question.
but,
because
like-
I don't know the answer to
Because it's ridiculous if a man says that you're using a pretty privilege, right?
that. Mhm.
Like it's ridiculous. But also like there is certain like natural stuff like chemistry and like interest. Like is a bit the best. But also like if it's like if the boss is a woman and you're a man, you can use your like pretty handsome hot privilege. Like where is this line?
Yeah, but honestly, like I feel like is it raining?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
Wrap it up.
yeah, but like say your points. Yeah.
But okay, so the point I was making is, we said that you said that you're flirting with your boss, etc., etc., right? But the thing is,
But even if you don't, like other person can say that you do, you know?
yeah, everyone can say whatever
Yeah,
they want to say. Like,
exactly.
Let's put what people are saying. to one side.
Okay, let's assume that you're actually doing that. Yeah? Okay.
I feel like number one, workplaces, no one's really flirting with anyone that I can see.
Guys, it's not that interesting in the real workplace. It's not like in the movies,
Honestly,
right?
like
Hello.
if you spend like 8 hours with one person, you don't
Yeah,
want.
it's
you
not
don't want to spend more
sexy,
time with
exactly.
them. You're just like, let me go home. I wanna watch
Exactly,
Netflix,
exactly.
and that's it, right?
Netflix and chill with myself. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Number
So-
two, the fact that we get to have this conversation is
Yeah.
amazing. The fact that we live in a society enough to be able to say this, because there are definitely
It's such a basic thing to say. Let's be grateful, guys, for the universe.
no,
No,
I'm not
okay,
the universe.
okay,
The
okay.
fact that some of us come from a society where women have not reached
Yeah,
that phase
yeah.
where you can have pretty privilege, even, right?
But I think it's the only privileges of society that they can have. You know, because like
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I think it's like the opposite in many societies, and I think you mean traditional societies, right? Like I think in traditional societies, it's the only privilege that women can usually have, being pretty, because like they cannot compete on their like intellectual merits, right? They cannot compete on their like their hardworking merit. They only can compete like the best thing. Like if their only economic ambition is to marry up, whatever. The only privilege they can use being
There
pretty.
you go,
and
pretty
young.
privilege exists everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's true.
It's
That's
true.
the thing.
The point is privilege. Is
Why would you
don't
why would you
exist.
fight with something that is like kind of natural?
I think it's not about fighting. I think it's about making people aware.
Aware of
And-
what?
and
Like let's say
aware of their thinking.
this tree is like better looking than that tree. That's a fact, right? But like the way you're gonna use it, it's different. Just because I think that this tree is better doesn't mean that it deserves more, or like it will go ahead in life. It's only depends on them. Like, what about personal accountability and responsibility, you know?
All those exist, but there's no substitute for personal accountability, responsibility,
Yeah.
hard work,
Yeah.
all that stuff that 100% exists, right? But the fact that we're not labeling things for the sake of labeling things.
Are you not? Sometimes.
What have you labeled?
Pretty privilege.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that it's important to be aware that these
Yeah.
privileges exist so that you can strategically decide for yourself what is the best route. You have to be aware of what's out there in the world, how people are treated out in the world, so that you know what's good for you at the end of the day.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Like, I agree with that. I think that, like, you have to be aware of your strengths. You have to be aware of how, like, but also, okay, I think it depends on the, like, your, like, personal life philosophy, right? So I think that we create our own reality, and a lot of the way, like, the way people perceive us is a reflection of how we perceive ourselves, right? So a lot of people, like, if you think that you are attractive and beautiful, like, that the way people are gonna see it. But if people are trying to be, like, super objective, right? Like, okay, like, be strategic, right? We can say, okay, there are different privileges, there are different advantages that you can have, and, like, you just have to focus on the one that you do have. Like, it's weird to, like, complain about something that you think you don't have, you know, like, unless you're a policy maker and, like, trying to change the world and try to do something about that, like, actually, like, let's say, like, yeah, you will like make it anonymous, you will not put a photo on the resume, on the CV. That's a good thing. Like, if you want to do that, do that. But, like, if it's just a way to, like, blame other people for their successes, no, like, don't, like, blame other people for their success. Like, they work hard in any capacity, like, even if it's appearance, even if their social skills, emotional intellect, like, people work on all of those stuff, you know. Like, I know people who, like, literally work on their conversation skills because they know, like, they're smart, they're whatever, like, they're not ugly, right? So that's not what's holding them back, but they don't know how to make a small talk, you know. So they literally learn about those stuff. And women, for example, like, I don't know, even let's think about Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian, right? If you're into pop culture, like, at the time Paris Hilton was on the top and Kim Kardashian was not considered, like, attractive or conventionally attractive, right? And what she did, and, like, she was a little, like, a side person, like a second character next to Paris Hilton, who was, like, the look of the time, right? And even Paris Hilton was not conventionally attractive, right? You could say that she had, like, certain features that people did not consider, but, like, the way she presented herself, people started to believe that she's attractive. But then what Kim Kardashian did, she, like, created this image of herself, and she actually persuaded people that her look, her body type, whatever, like, attributes she has is attractive, because before that people didn't like that. So she actually changed the way people perceive beauty. So this is actually in your powers. If you really want people to believe that you are beautiful, just believe in yourself that you're beautiful, act as if you're beautiful, and people will believe that you're beautiful. And, like, the whole world will end up believing that you're beautiful, if it's that important for you and you think that you're in a disadvantaged position.
I also think the privilege conversation is not necessarily a blame game. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily saying, oh, they have privilege, that's why they did XYZ. It can also just, because some privileged people, not all, some privileged people can be completely unaware of everything that they possess and everything that they have been entitled to all their lives, right? And in that way, it's so necessary to have that conversation simply for the sake of
For the sake of
for
what?
the sake of intellect. To be able to recognize where you come from, what you have, and understand that, you know, at the end of the day, if you're blessed with these things, that's great, good for you.
Yeah.
Don't throw it away. God, don't throw it away just because you have it, because it came to you easily. And I know a lot of people who can do that, and who
That's so
have done
true.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, the different, and I think celebrities are different kind of comparison, because number one, a lot of them have the means to change their appearance. They all have
But they, a lot
kind
of them
thing.
work for that, right?
Yeah, a lot of them do. A lot of people are not conventionally beautiful, just standing on pure talent in the industry. There's a lot of different. There's a lot of nuance to this topic, but at the same time, it exists. What you do with it is your thing. Um, for sure, like at least like in my eyes, it's definitely not a thing, a blame game thing. Like it's not like, oh yeah, nepotism, like they have XYZ, which is why then
She's referring to my other video.
I have no problem with the video because I am in that position of nepotism, so I can't say anything about it.
She's self-proclaimed
Yeah, like
Nepo baby.
I am a nepo baby at this point.
And she's proud of that.
I can't be ashamed of it, number
Exactly,
one,
yeah.
because someone else made all that for
You're
me.
gonna be cancelled with me, yay! Cancelled together,
You have to understand that not accepting what's given to you is also disrespecting what the other person has spent a lifetime
Or you're just
making.
stupid.
It's also it depends on your interest, right? If you don't want to do it,
Oh, of course.
that's
exactly.
your
Okay, that's the other point, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you, if you decide to make a career in other industry which is super different from like what your parents or like family does, are you gonna be a nepo baby or not? Like, what is considered to be a nepo baby? Like, do you have to have connections? Do you have to have money? Because sometimes like you might have money, but it still is hard to break through because you don't have like, you don't know people in the industry.
Yeah.
If you go into acting, like completely different.
I think if I did use my family's influence in any way to get into that industry, yes, I would consider myself a nepo baby.
If your family doesn't have connections, like how can they help? Can they, if they pay for your acting courses, are you a nepo baby?
If they paid for the acting courses,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like most parents in Eastern cultures pay for
Yeah.
education. I don't think that's
exactly.
a nepo baby.
But people who can afford that, they will say it is a privilege. Even if your parents saved their whole life, like you don't have that. A lot of people have that. Like, are you privileged in that way?
No, I don't think that's a privilege. I don't think.
But you don't think it's a privilege. Some
I-
person can say like you are privileged because you're not in that.
I don't think getting education in any particular field can be considered.
Are you sure? Like, Americans will disagree with you so hard. Americans.
Specifically
Because it's very expensive, right there.
Right. And I know from where I come from, I don't think it's a privilege.
So it's subjective, right? Privileges are subjective.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
In our family, like extended family have paid for each other's kids' education, and you can't call that, and that's in very specialist fields as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's fair to call that nepotism just because someone has the money. I don't think education counts, to be honest. Like in my view.
Well, that's the thing, right? So it means that privilege is so subjective because if I say, so like, okay, my parents took care of me, made sure that I wear nice clothes, take care of my skin, right? Take care of my hair, learn about fashion, learn about like social skills, right? It's not a privilege per se, right? It's just like parents taking care of their children. And if my parents think that it's part of taking care of a child to make sure that they possess certain like social skills and being able to present themselves in the society so that, I don't know, you have whatever opportunities you have, it just is. It's just life, right? And if you other people's like parents or like whoever took care of them didn't make those choices, it just is, right? It's just a fact. It's not a bad thing or a bad or a good thing, you know?
What I'm trying to say, and I hope you agree with me, is that it's your right. You know what? You're a free person, a free country. That's what I'm trying to say. So even if you like do not go through life being bothered about like what other people have, like become selfish a little bit and think about like the opportunities that you do have. Like stop. Oh, there you go, sexy. She's trying to help my tripod to stand. That's nice of her. Oh my gosh. And anyway, like, guys, I think like my personal philosophy, and I think it actually comes to like spiritual understanding, but also a little bit scientific. That I think like we come to this world to like have certain experiences, and I believe in souls, right? So I believe that you come in this world choosing certain like bodies, certain appearance, certain families, because you want to get those experiences in life, right? And this is interesting in its own way, right? So the way I live, the way I came at the point where I am, it's very different that like another person in the same position, right? And that's why it's interesting. Maybe they didn't have the same like challenges that I did. Maybe I didn't have the same challenges that they did. But we're not meant to be like identical, you know? We're not meant to have like similar lives, because it would be just boring. And I think like we just have to have a little bit like our attitude should change a little bit. And like for our mental health sake, we should just treat life as a game, you know, like when there are different levels. And like it's interesting to like start in different levels and see how far you can go. Like you have to be like more proud of yourself. Like just stop wasting your time obsessing about what other people did, and like start being more proud of yourself, of what you could accomplish starting where you are. And like challenge yourself, like, oh, what can I do, you know, what I can do in this world, what can I change, how can I improve myself. I think that's much more interesting and exciting. But also change your focus and like start being obsessed with like whatever privileges you do have, whatever advantages you do have. And then your life is just going to be better, you know, and you will be actually able to progress in life, because you will actually like start thinking about, oh, what opportunities do I have. And like you can even start to think like, what like microscopic step can I take so that it will bring me closer to my goal. Like literally you have to become like the main character of your own life. You know the hero journey, right? Like think that you're a hero of your life, like you're Harry Potter, right? Like little like orphan, but you have this hidden power in yourself. Like find it, like channel that. Honestly, like you have to like your life. You have to be more excited. You know, how can you put other people on a pedestal and think they're better? Like how can anyone be better than you? That's ridiculous. And if you think so, like something is like in your head, you know, like don't ever think that anyone is better than you. You're the best person in the world.
I have to go.
She has to go. We're wrapping it up. Thank you for listening to this episode. It's my first official guest, so thank you, Richa. Thank you for being my first guest. Hopefully I will be able to edit it like appropriately.
No, not anymore.
We had an hour conversation like easily, which is like really nice. So we have something to talk about. Maybe like we're living in our own delusion bubble where like we talk to each other, but maybe we have to talk to real people.
I'm a real person.
Thank you for being with us. Yeah, it was following Fariza, so you followed my conversation with my dear friend from my business school. Oh yeah, we're finishing. Thank you. Yeah, so it's actually time to say goodbye. Thank you very much. Bye bye.